do is we're doing DVDs to act as a supplement to the book Guiding Principles of Kosher Kempo. Words and still pictures are a really difficult means of communication. And especially in this book, what we're trying to do is we're trying to relay concepts and principles that actually govern or make a technique work. So there's quite a bit of difficulty in trying to get everything across to the reader through the words and still pictures. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of supplemental DVDs which will come with the book, and this will enhance the reader's understanding of the concepts and principles and some of the little intricacies on how to make some of these techniques work. I hope you enjoyed the DVDs. Okay, we're going to start off with the chapter on the octagon. We'll go into some of the philosophical principles as we go through some of this stuff, but these DVDs are more about the physical aspects of the arts and giving the reader an understanding, a better understanding of how to pay attention to the little intricacies that make things work. In Kempo, our philosophy is that escaping is the highest art. So repositioning your body when an attacker is attacking you is of extreme importance. Two basic ways that I like to formulate this. One is total escape, which an attacker is attacking you, you're giving up that ground, and you're taking an angle which will allow you a total escape from harm. Okay, this allows you total escape, no harm to you, and no harm to the opponent, which is the highest art. Okay, the second area would be to escape and engage. This would be if you plan on engaging your opponent, applying a throwing technique, striking technique, blocking technique, whatever it may be, moving from that space and taking an angle so that you create superior posturing and positioning versus your opponent. So when the opponent rotates to turn and hit you or follow up with his attack, you're already in a position that's superior to his position. You can take advantage of where he's at and his rotation as he comes to find you. An example of this would be if Sensei throws a punch, okay, and I manipulate here, all right, as this man goes to rotate, as he rotates, he's weak. Okay? So where I could not get that to happen, if I stayed here and block, okay, I'm taking on this man's mass, all right, taking on his mass. He's got the advantage, all right. As he goes to rotate, me doing this here is not going to have the same effect on him if I was to an angle to the outside, to the inside of him. Okay. So the first thing we're going to start off was the octagon, 8 angles, both with total escape. Now, angle 1, being that your opponent is in front of you, is difficult for total escape, obviously. So as this man goes to punch, you basically would have to cut to angle 1, create an imbalance on your opponent, make a rear throw, and then take off. Right? If you were facing this way, all right, and the opponent was at your side, and he throws a punch in my peripheral vision, I would cut, and I would roll to angle 1. Right? But right now we're going to do our angles with the attacker being basically at 1, myself at 2. Okay, so we're going to face our attacker, and that would be our angle. So angle 2 would be is if this man goes to throw a punch, I might carry and just turn and rotate. This could be applicable if, let's say, the only way out of a room would be the doorway behind me. So I would, all the time while we're doing this, you have to remember that we're focusing on peripheral vision, tunnel vision where it's necessary. An attacker is throwing an attack at you. It's important to remain peripheral so that you can see motion quicker, and it allows you to escape quicker. Tunnel vision is more important when it comes to engaging. Right? If he throws a punch at me and I escape out to here, and now I choose to engage as he rotates, now I want to be tunnel. I want to zone in on my attacker for his destruction. Okay? So angle 2 would be right behind. He would throw a punch. I might be leaning here, drop back, give him a push, take off and escape. Okay? Angle 3, he throws a punch, moving straight out to angle 3. As my escape angle, or my escape route would be towards this direction, I would just take off. He throws a punch, I move out to angle number 4. Right? He throws a punch, I cut into angle number 5 and do a total escape. He throws a punch, I might check, roll off to angle number 6. And he throws a punch, cut out to angle number 7. And if he throws a punch, I'm going to check here, roll out to angle number 8. Now another important thing to think of, and it's in the book, not only is your vision training important in this, it's also your posture training. Timing, for the vision, timing is very important because if I'm late, if I'm looking at him peripherally or with tunnel vision, and he throws that punch, I'm going to have to react in a backward manner. I don't want to have to do that. The other thing is, depending on what angle I want to move to, I want to prepare my body to be able to make that motion quicker. So for instance, if I want to move to my right, angle number 4, I want to do what we call the leaning factor. I want to shift my weight to my left foot by bringing up the right foot on the ball of the foot, leaning my body. Not actually leaning your spinal structure, just leaning the body. This takes the weight from this foot and allows this foot to move quicker. Right? It also takes my center line from here and it moves it to here. So what it does is it baits this man on where to punch. In actuality, I'm not here. I'm actually here. So as he throws the punch, this foot is able to move quicker and I'm able to move quicker. So those two things are very important when you're doing total escape. Okay? So we've covered all the angles of the octagon. Again, angle 1, we demonstrated engaging the opponent, doing something to him, and then escaping. If I chose if the attack was coming from this direction, this would be my angle 1. It would be total escape. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is your octagon for escape and engagement. All right? If you choose to engage your attacker, it's important for you to cut to an angle that gives you superior posturing and positioning, but then also align your centers to your attacker. So he has to rotate, and I'm already ready to attack. When we talk about triangles, and we've discussed it in several parts of the book, just to give you briefly, you want to think of, the easiest triangle to think of would be shoulder to shoulder to point of contact. Okay? You can also think hips to point of contact. You can also think knees to point of contact, feet to point of contact. And also, using the upper body triangles, you would be thinking third eye, para, and point of contact. So you have triangles going this way, and you have triangles going this way to help keep your alignment. So for escape and engagement, as the attacker goes to throw a punch, I cut into the center, I take up the center space that he needs, okay? And I work my technique. This could be a throw, this could be a striking technique. If he throws a punch, and I move in to here, if I choose to attack him with a temi or striking, I have the hits right here, okay? Angle number 2 is I would be using the leaning factor in a front-back type manner, okay? I would be shifting my weight forward to make him think that his target is here. In actuality, his target is back here, okay? So I press the man, I cover the center here. He throws a punch, I move back, I parry his strike. From here, I can move in, I can engage my opponent, all right? Angle number 3, he throws a punch, I shift first, I cut out to angle 3. I'm in this posture to engage. If he chooses to rotate and hit, I can off balance him here, press his line down and take him out. If I choose to do a temi, okay, I'm parrying here, he goes to rotate, I'm going to hit, check him, and work my strikes, and then may take him in a backward manner to finish the throw. Angle 4 would be to this side. He throws a punch, I escape, and I engage. Notice how the attacker falls into a void. Let's do this way. So as he throws the punch, I'm moving and I'm hitting him from here. Okay? If I choose to throw the man, I know that his back triangulation point is facing that direction, down into a throw. Okay? Angle number 5 would be cutting up to the 45 on the left. Right? Again, I'm shifting my body, baiting him to punch here. He throws, I cut out, and then I turn. Now I'm behind the man. If he goes to rotate, very easily to off balance him here, cut to the center and take him into a throw. Important thing to remember with 5 and 7, when you move off to that angle, if he throws a straight punch, okay, I can get out here without engaging the arm.
if I'm here and he throws a hook punch, I want to cover my center as I go through here. Okay? And then I will turn towards the center of my opponent and work him out. So angles 5 and 7, very important that as the man punches, even if he's punching with his right hand, I'm not sure of that. When I cut to that angle, I want to put my triangle here in case. Okay? Angle 6, I'm cutting back this direction. And if a man puts a punch, I scoot back. And this may be a long-range technique, but I'm aligned for engagement. So as he goes to rotate again, I have my kicks, I have my punches right there. Okay. Angle 7, he rotates, I cut in and turn. From this point, this arm is basically checked. So he's going to have to retract that arm, throw that punch. I'm all ready to hit at this point and finish my attack. Angle number 8, he throws a punch, slip back. Okay, if you're going medium range, you can use this for your temi. Okay, if he throws a punch, okay, and I have to slip back further, now I have the distance I need for kicking. So as he rotates, he kicks, and then take it. So these are 2 examples of how to use the octagon. One for total escape, which is the most important, and then for escape and engagement. Realize that in the process of doing this, your timing, your hayoshi, your distancing is really important, and you need to be aware of your peripheral versus tunnel vision, and you also need to consider the leaning factor. Okay? Well, and now we're on to the next step. In the octagon, we have your 8 angles. You have your circle around the outside. What most people don't think of is where the outside angles intersect in the middle of the octagon. Now there's several ways we can use the octagon. We're going to give you several examples on how to use the octagon. It fits in a couple different ways which will help your studies. First of all, if we have the octagon on the floor, okay, and let's say my attacker is at angle 1 and I'm at angle 2, all right, for this man to attack me, as he comes in and punches slowly, he needs to engage and take up the space, the center space of the octagon. So if he's at angle 1 and I'm at angle 2, we want to think of this as the center pole area of the octagon. Okay? So we want to think of a nice big round pole, which is in the center of the octagon. In order from where he's at, even at this range, he can't hit me from there. Okay? So what his body needs to do is, first thing he's going to do is he's going to repel to try and wind up, and then he's going to move forward, and his body and his head is going to come right into the center of the octagon. Understand this. It makes it very easy to intercept an opponent. Okay? This, like to think of this as the neutral zone, okay, which either one of us has to occupy in order to damage to the other person. So one way we can do this is we jam our attacker's motion. Okay, for him to throw a good hard punch at me, okay, he needs to take up the space. Okay, everybody, as we know, has a certain amount of room that we need to move our body, retraction, projection, so on and so forth. If we understand this, and he goes to throw a punch, and I intercept this area of the octagon here, I create imbalance on him, okay, which allows me to jam and allows me to apply a block, a strike, or a throw. All right. We have to think about taking up that space. If we're in tunnel vision, and I'm waiting, and he goes to attack me, there's no way that my timing will be correct enough to move into that center area of the octagon and create a jamming effect on him. All right. I want to also think about manipulating the extremities as they come into the center pole of the octagon. So if a man punches, okay, what I'm doing, I might be intercepting here, okay. When we move, we're a very awkward species, all right. If I want to hit sensei, okay, and I'm in a settled posture position, I need to overcome gravity, and my body has to move in an upward manner. Okay, so we consider the apex of that movement, or the center of that movement, would be the center pole of the octagon. So if I were to hit this man, he's not going to move. I need to settle in. I need to repel from where I'm at. I need to overcome gravity. I need to make my body move forward, and then I settle and I hit, or I hit and I settle. Right? The idea about making it easier to intercept the opponent's extremities is when a man's punching. If he's punching and I intercept here, okay, this has a greater effect on his body. Whereas if he was throwing a punch and he settled and I block here, this is strong. Okay? What I want to do is I want to intercept that punch at a much earlier time. So as he goes to throw the punch, I'm intercepting here, okay, which creates an imbalance on his body. Okay? This allows me, is he's rolling in, he saw a target, he went to take up the neutral zone, the arm was manipulated at the neutral zone while his body was in a rising effect before it settled. Okay? This creates a lot of imbalance on the opponent. I mean, from here, I have the ability to manipulate the legs. Okay, I have the spine arched. So a simple move like that can throw a person backward. So you want to consider that when you're doing your self-defense. Striking to the center pole. Okay, if this man punches, I know his head has to come to here. There's no doubt about it. Either arm that he throws the punch with, doesn't really matter. His head is going to have to come to that center pole of the octagon. Knowing that allows me to deal with an opponent on a much more offensive basis than it does defensive. If the man punches, and I'm always doing this, I'm defensive in nature. Okay, defense is important, but the best defense is really a good offense. So as this man throws a punch, and I can strike to the center pole of the octagon, and then follow up with my strikes, allows me a much easier time of manipulating his base and balance. And that's really what we're trying to do here. Okay, one of the whole concepts of this book is the fact that balance is necessary. All right, for everything in martial, in personal life, in professional life, in health. Balance is essential, and we're on a constant struggle to find balance, okay, to maintain balance, dealing with the chaos and drama and so on and so forth. We have to find a centered area and a balanced area. On the other hand, for my opponent, my job is to create chaos and imbalance in his structure and in everything that he does. So he sees me wide open, he goes and throws a punch, I just move and put my hand out there. That confuses my opponent because it's not something that he's expecting. I'm not reacting to his motion, moving back and receiving his technique, okay, which is what he really expects. Okay? So my job is to create balance for me, create imbalance for him. Okay? The same thing with joint lock manipulation. Okay? If let's say this man grabs, okay, notice what's in the center pole of the octagon, his arm. So when I realize this, I'm basically attacking the center pole of the octagon, and I'm attacking his joints. So this gives you a little introduction or a little bit of an explanation on the center pole of the octagon. If I'm kicking, okay, if the man throws a punch, okay, and I move back to angle number 6 and I'm here, I don't really need to think about kicking him here, because if I'm here, really I can't hit him very well here. I can touch him, and if I snap my hips into the kick, I can project into his body to make this work. But I also understand that as he goes to rotate, his body's going to move forward, allows me the ability to kick to that area too. So same thing with your striking. Okay, now one more thing on joint locking at the center pole of the octagon. All right, let's say I am wanting to apply a kotegaeshi, an outward wrist lock. Let's see this. All right. And I'm attempting to do this lock. I need this space in order to apply this lock. All right. If I go to apply this lock and this man moves into the center pole, okay, that makes this lock very difficult for me to do. Plus, he's got me in a jam manner, and I'm off balance. So if he moves through, I fall backwards. Okay. So when you're applying joint locks, realize the space that's important for you to operate to apply that lock. All right. So if I was applying this lock and he moves into the center pole of the octagon, I need to move back to create a new octagon and a new center pole so that I can make this lock work. Okay, so that's very important to remember when you're doing joint locking and how the center pole of the octagon applies to it and gives you the space needed to operate to manipulate his joints. We're going to talk a little bit about placement of the octagon. Okay, one of the first things you think about is placement of the octagon on the floor. So he being at angle 1, I being at angle 2. Or I can consider him at angle 1 and I'm in the center pole of the octagon. And then I cut to my various angles working the escape. All right? We've talked about the center pole of the octagon. It's very important. Okay? So we've got our 8 angles here. We've got everything on the floor. The center pole is in the middle. All right? If I take, now, and while the octagon is on the floor, and I take and I place the attacker, so he steps forward. Okay? So let's say he's in the center of the octagon. All right? Now I use the angles of the octagon to see how this man moves. So, for instance, when John goes to throw a right punch, he's going to cock his arm back, okay, and stop right there. Right now, his body is on my 5/6 of the octagon, okay? This arm has to project in order for that arm to retract, all right? As he goes and he throws his punch and he twists, boom, stop. Now his body is on 7/8 of the octagon, okay? Now you're asking, how is this beneficial to, how can I use this, okay? If he goes to cock the punch and throw his punch, okay, and brings this arm forward and goes to throw his punch, I can check this arm, which will give me the time to manipulate his body structure off to that side, all right? If the man throws a punch, okay, and I'm here, and his body is on the 7/8 angle of the octagon, I know that this shoulder is going to have to go back to 5, and that shoulder is going to have to come across. So now he's on 5/6 angle of the octagon. How this helps you is you can intercept his motion as he's striking. So he goes to throw a punch, okay, and he cocks his arm out. I can use this to offset it, first of all, okay? He throws the punch. I move to here. I know that this shoulder is going to have to, in order for that arm to hit me, that shoulder is going to have to that point. Any spot in there that I intercept that allows me to negate that punch. So as he goes to rotate, what I do is punch to this area of the octagon and catch him in the incoming shoulder. From here I can roll into my attempting forward throw. Right? So as your attacker moves, also from here, if I'm on 5/6, or if I'm here, I rock back to 5/6 of the octagon. Also realize that my body has to move up in an upward manner. We've discussed that on the octagon. Okay. If I take the octagon and I can apply it and put it on his body. So if John's facing forward here towards the camera, okay. If I take the octagon and I put the octagon on his body, this being 1, this being 2, this being 3, this being 4, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8. So by doing that, what I'm doing is I'm intersecting lines here, okay? So the shoulders would be 5 and 7. Knees would be 6 and 8, okay? So I know that if this man goes to rotate and punch me, okay, bang, if I attack this area right here, the angle 7 of the octagon on my opponent gives me different ways to attack the body, okay, a different way to look at the body. Okay, right. Now, with the octagon on the body, I also look at how I can manipulate his body structure. And for instance, when a man's punching, if I take his incoming strike and I guide it to a certain area, it causes rotation and it causes an imbalance of the body. So if my octagon is here, this being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if this man throws a punch in here and I manipulate this, I manipulated that punch off to a certain angle. Okay? If you rotate some punches, okay, and I receive and I manipulate that angle down, basically what I'm doing is I'm manipulating that angle down, or that arm down to angle number 6. Okay? If he steps in and punches and I want to hit 1, okay, then what I do is now I have an octagon going this way. Okay? So I moved his body in a backward manner. Okay? If I'm doing joint locks, okay, I'm taking and pressing towards certain areas of the body with the octagon on his body. So placing the octagon on the body, placing the octagon on the floor, okay, placing the octagon in at the center pole can be done also. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a little bit of understanding of how the octagon can be used. And it's my hope that you take this information and you'll see other applications for the octagon. Okay, also. Next segment is what we're going to do is we're going to do some drills that we do in the school through usage, use the octagon to teach several different things. One, basic stances, learning the basic angles so they can use them in their escaping, striking, locking, so on and so forth. So one of the basic drills we do, we call it the octagon kata. All right. So with Wes being in the center of the octagon, he's in the center pole of the octagon. Okay. Basically, what you're doing is you step into the 8 angles in a front-leaning stance, and you're doing a gate or a down block. Okay. So I'm going to have Wes run through these slow as I talk him through it. So from this posture, center pole, Wes steps forward with his left foot. He steps into a good front-leaning stance, covers his center, and then does a down block. Okay. From there, he repels back to the center pole. Then he steps back with the left foot, covering. Okay, making sure he's got a good front-leaning stance, making sure he's covered his centers, and then doing a good down block. Comes back up to center. Angle 3 being to your half left. He steps out, and the foot steps back. Instead of straight up to the angle, steps back, so that when he turns, he's got the width he needs for his front leaning and performs a down block. He repels back. He's going to do the same thing. The foot steps back, giving him the width for his stance. He does a down block, repels back. He steps off to angle number 5, taking his center basically to angle number 5. Positions feet and blocks. Stepping back to 6, this foot's going to turn slightly. His foot's going to zigzag, giving him the width and length, and perform the down block. Okay. From here, he's going to look off to angle number 7. He's going to take his center in by stepping into the right foot and doing a down block. And then he comes back. Angle 8, this left foot turns first. His right foot zigzags back, so he has the width, performs a down block. Okay. So, if we're going to do these, I'm going to do these on the counts. Let's say you're going to go in and perform a good down block and a good stance. Ready? Ich, ni, san, shi, go, rook, siege, hat. Okay. Now, there's several things we can do with this basic drill. All right. First thing is to get the students so that they understand the angles and they know where they're at. Okay. Second thing is good stance posture, good covering center as you're moving forward, and then performing a good technique. Now, this kata could be done with high blocks, middle blocks, anything. So it's a valuable tool when in your school you can practice your basic fundamentals while still teaching the student about the octagon. Another thing that we can do with this basic drill is, so when the person's moving in, they fire their block and they repel from that as soon as they make contact. So in the beginning, you'd be bang, stop, feel the good stance, and come back. Next level would be to step in, cover, bang, hit, and then repel right back off, giving the student that 7-10 or that move twice concept where they hit the stance, perform what they need to do, and then repel back. So we're going to have Wes do that. This is done a little bit more quickly. Okay, angle 1, and back. 2, and back. 3, and back. 4, back. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay? Now, we also do this, another way of doing this is we work on octagon kokutsudachi and shutoke. So this would be performed then in a kokutsudachi or back stance, doing a shutoke or a knife. Okay, so Wes is going to perform these this first time. He's going to just settle into his stance, feel the stance, and then repel. Ready? Angle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and the next step would be to move in, bang, hit, and repel right back. Hit, repel right back. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now we can take the both of these, the octagon kokutsudachi and the octagon zenkutsudachi. Basically, what we're going to do is you're going to move to a front-leaning stance, perform your down block, and then shoot to a back stance. And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to keep the body moving. Okay? Now we're not so much thinking about the feet. This is kind of to a level where the student has the basic stances, but now this is moving into a stance and immediately repelling out. So you have an offensive, defensive type of motion here. So it's down and back, down and back. So we would do that at all angles of the octagon. So Wes is going to take this, we're going to slow this down a little bit so the viewer can see it a little better. Okay, nice form. Okay, so he's going to move in angle one. He's going to down block, back stance. Down block, into back stance, and action. Keep moving. Making sure that from here, covering center before you do your chop, so that your hands are here to intercept the motion. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take him to the next angle. So then he's going to move to 2. So he steps back, down blocks, and then back stance, front stance. Back stance, front stance. This gives the student the ability just to keep moving, keep moving. It's a good aerobic workout. It's also good for working on preparatory motion to move to the next stance. Keep the students working. From here he goes to angle number 3. Then angle 4. And back to 7. And angle 5, 6, 7, and 8 on this. Okay? Now another way we can do the octagon is to take 2 angles at a time. Alright? So from here, Wes and I are in this position. We step in, we do angle number 1, then we repel, coming right back, therefore eliminating the center pole of the octagon. Okay? And then up. Then we would go angles 3, either take the front foot across or the back foot behind. I like to bring the back foot behind. And go here. So you work 1 and 2. Okay? Angles 5 and 6. So we move in angle number 5, repel right off that, come back to 6. Angle number 7 and number 8. So we move in, back, angle number 8. Get the student so he's moving 1, 2. So Wes is going to do angles 1 and 2, nice and smooth. Ready? Go. And back. Angles 3 and 4. Angles 5 and 6. Angles 7 and 8. Okay. So these are some of the basic drills that we do with the octagon. There's many more drills. These, all of what we've done here can be done in front leaning, back stance, can be sanchin, seisan stance, cat stance, right? Working with each angle, different stances. You can apply different blocks, different strikes also. Okay? Now watch, we'll move on. Okay, the next area we're going to go on to is the concepts of study chapter. Right? Some of the things I discussed in here, I just wanted to touch on briefly. As we get started in the martial arts, we see a lot of the surface. We see, self-defense techniques. We see kata, so on and so forth. And what we try and do, we try and take them and we try to apply them on how we can use that for our own self-development, as well as for our self-defense, and so on and so forth. It's important to understand that when a teacher teaches you a technique, he's teaching you a basic 1, 2, 3 technique, and he's giving you the building blocks to try and do that technique. Right? In Kosho, we do it a little bit different. We still teach the technique, but what we try to do is we try and show you the concept that governs it or allows it to work. Right? Somebody who's been training in the martial arts a long time, if he has a teacher to point this out to him, he sees it sooner. But eventually, a lot of people will find it on their own. We have to realize that there's more than just the technique. Okay? We've all been in a situation where our teacher asks us to perform a technique, and sometimes it works great, and then other times it doesn't work as well or doesn't work at all. And the nagging question is, well, what went wrong? What did I do differently? All right. Concepts and the principles and understanding them will help clear that up. And once you understand the concepts and principles, if you do a technique and let's say halfway through the technique it doesn't work, you have the ability to roll right to something else, which is a peripheral mindset. You know, our teachers are very important. It's important in this process to have a good teacher. Same thing with our elders. We have to have the ability to be open-minded to the point of where we can learn from other people instead of having to go through it the hard way and make our own mistakes. So this chapter is on the concepts of study, and these concepts of study will apply to a bunch of different things in your self-defense application. Also, these concepts of study, what I try to do in this book is to show you philosophical applications too that you can use in your personal life as well. Okay? So when we come back, we'll be talking about some of the different concepts and how to apply them to. Okay, in the concepts of study chapter, one of the first things we want to discuss is we want to revisit the peripheral versus tunnel vision. The difference between peripheral and tunnel is the fact, especially when receiving an attack, is whether you're preparatory manner or reactionary manner. All right? A lot of martial arts styles are reactionary. So I'm standing here, I'm in this position, he throws a punch, okay, and I'm reacting to his motion. Hence, a lot of times moving in a backward manner. With tunnel vision, as explained in the book, you're working with how your eyes are designed. Okay, you have rods and cones in your eyes which pick up stimuli, detail, so on and so forth. If I'm looking at this man in a peripheral manner, I can see everything. I can see everything that he's moving. I can see him blink. I can see everything. But yet I'm not taking in a great amount of detail from him. The colors, the textures, so on and so forth, all the small things. Okay? When I'm looking at him in tunnel vision, my brain has to process a lot of information. Hence, when he goes to move, okay, I have to react in a backward manner because my brain has to process too much information. But when I'm looking at him in a peripheral manner and he goes to throw a fast punch, I can just move because I'm not taken in by all the detail. Right? Hence, you have your reactionary versus preparatory. All right? We try to always be preparatory in our manner. So we need to understand that. We need to understand that the peripheral versus tunnel goes hand in hand with the leaning factor. All right? Leaning factor can be in a lot of places other than just the very beginning of a possible attack. So I'm here, I'm baiting him here, he throws the punch, very easy for me to move out of the way of that punch. But then I can also, if he throws a punch, okay, and I move to here, all right, my lean may be this way a little bit. So now I'm baiting this man to punch me here as compared to here. All right, so let's say my objective is to shift back to this angle. All right, I may, as I move, bait him here, he punches here. That makes this escape much easier. It gives me a greater ability to have him over-rotate. Okay, so the leaning factor is very, very important. Those two go hand in hand. By doing both of these, I'm creating an illusion for this man. He thinks I'm here, he punches, but really I'm here. Okay? Now, where I've ended up, my weight posture, I'm over the front foot. So I'm basically leaning in this manner. So if he goes to rotate with the next punch, simply shifting back with this hand, okay? Simply shifting back to here puts me in a position where I can strike this man. Okay? So those two things go hand in hand, and they're very important. And it's discussed a little more in detail in the chapter on that. Okay, now next thing we discuss in the book is something I like to refer to as peripheral and tunnel attitude. Right? We talked about peripheral vision, tunnel vision. They both have their place. They're both equally as important. One cannot really happen without the other. So you need both sides. It goes along with the yin and yang theory. So we take that and we look at vision skills and how it applies to our self-defense. Now we also want to look how we can translate vision into attitude. All right? If we think of things in a peripheral attitude, basically means that we have an attitude at which we have the ability to change. Right? A tunnel attitude, which is equally as important. Maybe if I have a project that I need to get done or that I want to get done, such as this book, having a tunnel attitude is very important, and setting a goal, following through, so on and so forth, and accomplishing what it is that you set out to achieve. So they're both important. Now we also take that, and that can be applied to your personal life, your professional life, so on and so forth. But now we want to look at how that applies to the martial arena, right? Too many times when we're doing a technique, we try and take a square peg and jam it in a round hole, and it's not going to work, right? So what we need to do is we have to have the ability, in Japanese arts, that's called yoyu. It's the ability to change when needed, right? For instance, if I'm working a technique on a person and I feel that they've gained stability in their base and they create resistance against what I'm trying to do, I have to feel that resistance and I have to roll with it, and I have to roll to something else, okay, which will keep them in an off-balance state. So peripheral versus tunnel attitude, we're going to talk about that now, and we're going to demonstrate a little bit on that. Let's say, for instance, if a man throws a punch and I'm going to slip inside, I'm going to create a fold on his arm, I'm going to create an arch on his head, and I'm going to off-balance him to the point where he's ready to go, break his kazushi, and then from here I rotate, take him into a throw. Right? Good throw, all right? Technique-wise, it's good. I've operated with the concepts properly, but this time he's going to throw the punch, okay? And when I go to throw him, he's going to take his foot out and he's going to catch himself. Here I feel resistance, okay? Now I could still try to jam this and make this work, okay? Although it's going to create a lot of effort on my part. Easier for me to do is feel this resistance and roll him back to a point where his body is imbalanced, okay? So he throws a punch, I go to do the throw, he catches himself, okay? I can either try and jam this in, or I can realize that right now he's weak to that point right there, his back triangulation point. So what I do from here is manipulate the head and then take him through and take him to a different area. That's having a peripheral attitude, right? What I can also do from this, we'll do it from this angle, is he throws a punch, okay? Same thing applies, he catches himself. Okay, so I have this available, but what I can also do is I can continue the circle here, which is discussed in the book in a later chapter. From here, I bring this in, I rotate, and now, since his foot is positioned here to keep him from falling this way, I merely rotate the body and I cut off to another angle. Right? This is the mindset of having a peripheral attitude, the ability to change or place it in a position where what our initial goal was is difficult or can't be achieved. We move to another area. We can take the same thing when we talk about peripheral attitude. And let's say my mindset is to take this man into a throw. Okay? So we do the same throw, and he catches himself here. I can either try and push this, or from here I can roll it into my attempt. So if I throws a punch, I try to perform the throw. This isn't working. From here, I cut off. I'm going to hit here, hit here, hit, and then eventually take him back towards that back triangulation point. Right? If I'm locking, okay, and I'm doing a kotegaeshi out with a wrist lock, basically the same. I'm taking him here and I'm rotating, and taking him into a throw. Well, the same thing could apply. Okay, let's say the man throws a punch, okay, I'm here, and I have this, I start to do this, he steps out, all right? From here, I can go from a lock and go right to a throw. Or, I can take this posture here, and as he stops himself, bang, I can roll into my atemi, and then take it back into a throw. So it's very important to understand the ability to feel resistance of an opponent, and then from there, roll to something else. Next. I think we want to talk about in the concept study chapter is technique evolution. All right? Basically, everything that we start physically and try to do, we have to try and mimic motion in a large manner. All right? Think back to one of the first computer systems. From what I understand, it was just like as big as a room, and now we have basically little computers that fit in the palm of our hand. So basically, everything that we do starts out on a big format, okay? Especially in martial arts. When you walk into a martial arts school, every front leaning stance is very big, blocks very big. And the reason for that is, one, it's easy to imitate and see and understand a motion that is very big, okay? A motion that is somewhat smaller is more intricate, and it's more difficult for the practitioner to see it, visualize it, and then try to perform it. So this, we're going from big to small, right? That same evolution should happen in everything that you do. That same evolution is what you do to refine the practices that you perform. All right? So when we talk about big to small, let's say, since it's over here, okay, and he throws a punch, and I'm going to step out, and I'm going to perform a middle block, okay? Now, it's a good technique. The only problem with that is it takes a lot of motion on my part to apply that. So again, he throws a punch, I escape, and I perform an outside middle block. Now, an easier thing to do with this is, the man goes to throw the punch, and what I do is I position my hip to the outside of his arm, okay? And then when I rotate, my middle block not only parries the blow, but what it also does, it has a settling effect on my opponent. So from here, in order for this man to punch me, what has to happen first is he goes to punch me, notice how his body has to rise, okay? That allows me an avenue to create imbalance, right? So again, big motion would be, I move out of the way, this hand parries, this hand hits, okay? This could be a strike, okay? He throws a punch again, this hand may parry, bang, this may be a hit. Notice the big motion that has to be done here, all right? So what I want to do is, I'm working my leading factor, I'm working my peripheral vision, I'm working all those building blocks that we've given you up to this point. He throws a punch, I slip outside, okay? And then I rotate with my middle block. And you'll notice that there's different applications that you will see happen from there, okay? Another example would be, let's say a man cross grabs, okay? Well, the initial to teach a new student, basically you're stepping offline of the attacker, because from here, for me to rotate this and get this to the outside of his hand and maybe grab the arm to do a lock, is very difficult to do because I'm taking on the opponent's mass. If I reposition my body out here, this becomes much easier, all right? So the question is, well, how do I perform that in a smaller, more concise motion, which saves me time and energy, but still gets the job done? So if he grabs, what I'm doing is I position my right hip to the outside of his right hip, okay? Then I roll backwards, bringing the arm to here, and then I grab, and then I move in to apply my lock, all right? So I'm doing the same thing. Even though I'm not moving my feet, I'm still moving to the outside of the opponent's structure and strength. And then instead of trying to move around his arm, what I'm doing from here is I'm drawing back, which is a motion that he really can't resist. Once I get back to here, then I can easily turn my hand, and then I can move in and I can apply my joint lock. So in this chapter, what I challenge the reader to do is to look at what they're doing and find out how they may tighten up their motion in order to make what they do more concise, more direct, and more effective on the opponent. Okay. The next part of the concept of study chapter is the contour striking. All right. This basically refers to understanding how the body reacts to different strikes to the body. How striking to different areas of the body creates imbalance in the body. All right. So, for instance, if a man's throwing a punch at me and I strike his head, it causes an imbalance arching his body backward. All right. Now, from this spot here, me striking to the waist brings his head in, which allows me to hit or manipulate it. All right. So wherever I'm at, I can use this from the initial attack. He throws a punch. Okay, I can work off of here. He goes to rotate. Boom, here's my strike here. This would bring him in. This would bring him into different strikes and application. And then no matter what I want to do, I can roll into a throw. Okay, so understand how they work. Another area that I like to do is the elbow. The elbow is a very important thing for you to pay attention to. We'll discuss this later in the book on elbow awareness. But if a man comes and grabs, okay, understanding that this crease manipulates his other creases and contours the body in a specific manner. The understanding that the wrists automatically correspond with the ankles, the elbows correspond with the knees, and the shoulders correspond with the hips. Right? So I know that when this man grabs me, if I cut into the elbow crease, it will crease his knees also. Okay? This allows me manipulation of the lower base. It also allows me to throw this man very simply. All right? If a man is throwing a punch at me, and I chop into the elbow and I cut it to a specific angle of the octagon, it has an effect on that body so that I can go and roll into a throw. So if he were to punch and I cut into it, boom, it totally offsets his balance. Okay? When the elbow is captured outside the body, it has a dramatic effect on the structure of the body. Right? If we want to think about the waist crease again in a different avenue of where we had the opponent already arched backwards. So if the man goes to punch, can't rotate here. Okay, he goes to rotate. I'm going to kick his waist crease, bringing his head in. Okay, so say I want to be able to use all of my weapons, not just my feet. I want to use lower body to set up upper body, and I want to use upper body to set up lower body. Okay, so if he's throwing a punch, and I hit it, and I move back, and he rotates, and I catch this, and brings his head right into my hamstrings. Okay, another example now of contour striking. And basically, what we want to try to do is you want to learn the individual areas to strike to. A lot of times there are creases in the body. The head creates an arch on the spine. Then what you want to try and do is you want to try and take them and you want to manipulate them in one setting. Okay, so this man goes and grabs. Okay, let's say he wants to throw a punch with the other hand. Okay, I would check that. Okay, then I would cut this. Okay, so I keep this, then I attack this, then I hit here. Okay? So what I'm basically doing is I'm chopping his body down little by little. All right, so he grabs, I'm shifting here, and boom, I check this. Okay, I can hit here, kick to the inside, crease this, march, head back. That time I took the knee crease before I took the elbow crease. Realistically, the elbow crease should be done first because it will crease the knees even more and make your kick even more active. So grab, punch, stop it, crease the elbow, kick the leg. Okay, basically the structure is pretty much taken down. I can palm strike here, elbow strike here, and take the opponent back. Okay? So that is a little explanation of contour striking and how it allows you to manipulate the structure of your opponent. Now on. All right, the next area we want to talk about is triangulation. And, we touched on it briefly before in this tape. There's really two sets of triangulation. There's your triangulation and there's your opponent's triangulation. We talked before about a little bit about your triangulation. All right. When we're set up, if we're in a stance, okay, and our feet, we align our feet to the point of where the toes are pointed inward, we have lower body triangulation with the feet, also with the knees, the hips, so on and so forth. You have upper body triangles, which would be shoulder, shoulder, point of contact, hips, point of contact. And then you have your triangle from third eye to hara, and the outward part of your triangle would be your point of contact. So when we're thinking about this is mostly for engagement. Or it can also be used for escaping too. If the man throws a punch and I cut off to here, the best thing for me to do at this point would be to follow my triangulation this direction and total escape. All right. If he throws a punch and I carry it to the outside and I end up here, this would be my triangulation in that direction would give me a total escape. If a man throws a punch, okay, and I carry it here, I align my triangles so that I'm ready to hit. So this man goes to move, I can manipulate it, I can hit. Okay? If I do it in this manner, okay, and I do this, okay, my triangle, really basically body triangles, are this way. So he goes to throw a punch, I have to move, I'm moving in a secondary or reactionary manner, which I don't want to do. Okay? Throws a punch, okay, and I slip in here. I want my hands here. So as the man goes to move, my fingers don't have to move very far at all in order to hit this man. Okay, whether it be hits or strikes, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So think about this when you do your switch here. Okay. So if he throws a punch, and I block here, the best thing for me to do here is to just total escape, because that's what my triangles are aligned. If a man throws a punch and I cut out to here and I realign my triangles, now I'm in a superior posture. He goes to rotate. Very easy for me to hit and manipulate his body structure. Okay. Now the other thing we want to think about is your partner's triangulation. Okay. And the object for his triangulation is we want to mess his triangulation up. And we also want the very important triangle would be if, for instance, John steps in and throws a punch. Okay. All right. He stops right there. Okay. So if I look at this and I look at the feet, and I want you to kind of zoom in at the feet a little bit there. The two basic angles that are easiest to off-balance this person are this angle and this angle. Okay, so if I use his feet as the base of the triangle, then I connect and I bring the point out to here. This point in front and this point behind would be the two easiest areas for me to off-balance this person. Okay, when we are working our throws, very important to understand this triangulation. As we did before, here, we talked about the peripheral attitude. He throws a punch, okay, and I go to do this throw, and he catches himself, okay? From here, serves me well to know that all I got to do is walk back this direction, back towards this back triangulation point, forward triangulation point. However, if this man wants to apply a lock on, okay, I have to understand where he's most off balance to. So he goes to do is he starts his motion, I intercept his motion and take his head towards his back triangulation point. Now all of a sudden him saving his balance is a lot more important than putting the lock on my hand. So you have your triangulation and you have the triangulation of your opponent. It's important to understand both. Now watch. The concept of move twice is everywhere, and the more you think about the concept of move twice, the more you're going to be able to find examples for it in your studies. Move twice goes hand in hand with the peripheral attitude. All right, when feeling the resistance in one direction, we automatically take that resistance and use that and move to another direction. With move twice, a lot of times we'll create the resistance for the opponent. The opponent wants to move in a certain way, we'll create the resistance there so he tries to push through it. Then hence when feeling that secondary push, we'll take that push or that exertion of energy and we'll try to take that and use that against him. Some of the examples we're going to use here, we've done before on these tapes, so you'll see the similarities there. For one example of this, let's say I'm attempting an outward, let's go this way. I'm an outward kotegaeshi on this man. And I get to here, he positions his foot, and now because of his pedestal leg putting underneath the arm, he's created a foundation that this makes this very difficult to apply. So he's pushing, he's resisting, and he wants to bring his hand this way, okay? And I'm fighting that. Well, what I do to change that is I switch that way and I go back to where you were. Right? We'll show this from a different angle. Right? So let's say I'm attempting to apply this lock. Okay, puts his foot there, kind of gets his hips in a little bit more underneath his elbow, creating resistance for me here. So what I do is I rotate this way and then automatically back. This is my concept of move 10, right? Person can only resist in one direction at a time. So if he's resisting this flow and I move this way, he has to try and adjust, and then I automatically move out the back, causing the ability to apply the lock on the joint and create the throw. All right. If we're doing a throwing technique, and we'll use the same example we used before, he throws a punch, and I cut inside, I want to do this throw here, and he gets his leg underneath there. That leg supports his spine. Okay, makes this difficult. I feel this, I create the resistance there, and then I move this direction, causing him to fall. All right. If you're talking about something as simple as getting out of a grab, okay, if I automatically go this way, he's going to try and follow that. But if I take this and I resist this way, and now he doesn't like this, so he's going to push in. As he pushes in, it allows me to come out of the lock, right, or the grab, right. So everywhere you do this, you're using the concept of move twice. If we're talking about escaping, okay, simple fact of the leaning factor, okay, I move once, he punches, I move twice, okay. He, let's say he's going to throw a punch, I move out here, and I know he's going to attack my center, which is either going to be here or here. He throws the next punch, I just move twice, I move back to where I was, and I have my total escape, okay. Again, he throws this punch, I move in, back, now I have the ability for total escape and get totally out of the picture. So move twice in 7-10 are concepts that kind of fit together. You can use these on a lot of different things, a lot of different locks. Let's say he grabs here, okay, and I roll this out, okay, and I go to apply the joint lock, all right, and he has his elbow bent slightly, and he's a very strong person, and I can't get this to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and then down, right? That compresses the joint. You can only resist in one direction at a time, okay? So the objective is for you to take these examples and the explanation of move twice in 7-10, and as you're experimenting with your own training, I need you to try and find other examples that will fit into your training. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is resistance adjustment redirection, okay? Really, this is really just another way of saying move twice. It's another way of saying having a peripheral attitude. Some of the same examples that we used, the man throws a punch, okay, and I'm going to do this throw. I feel the resistance, okay? I adjust, and then what I do is I redirect and I throw in a backward manner. Okay? He grabs. I want to get out. I know that I have to come out between the thumb and the index finger. I feel his resistance. I adjust, and then I redirect. And that allows me to roll into something else. Okay? Joint locking. I feel the resistance. I readjust, and then I cause him to not be able to keep up with it. Okay. So those are some examples. Some of these concepts, they intertwine, and they basically can be looked at as achieving the same result. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, just briefly, is elbow awareness. Okay. I go into in this chapter in the book, and it should be pretty readily understood. But realize that how the elbow affects the body. All right. If this man throws a punch at me, okay, and I catch this elbow, okay, what it does is it has an effect on his body. If this man is just standing upright and he extends his arm, okay, and take to a point of imbalance, okay, and you turn the attacker's elbow in, has that effect on his body. You take him to a point of imbalance and then move his elbow out, and it has an effect on him also. When the understanding of how to manipulate the attacker's elbows and how proper position of your elbows. For instance, if I'm doing a joint lock here and my elbows are way out here, that places his hand close to his body, so he can really step back with his right foot, okay, and off balance me. All right. Also, if his elbow is close to his body, I'm going to have a tough time applying this joint lock. Hence, I need him out here, all right, to do this. On the same token is, let's switch it. He's going to do a lock on me. If I manipulate his elbows, it keeps him from being able to apply the lock on myself. All right. If a man throws a punch, okay, and I cut in and I work the elbow, I create a manipulation on his body. If he grabs me, okay, and I cut into his elbow, what it does is it creates a manipulation on his body, which allows me an entry to go in and continue the technique. So experiment with yourself. Experiment with natural body motion. When you reach for something, be observant of your elbow. Okay? If you reach for something and somebody were to bump your elbow inward, it would cause your body to move. Same thing with the outward. So take the elbow awareness and take the resistance adjustment redirection concept and compare that to what we've covered so far and apply it. Now on to the next. Okay, we're going to go into the chapter on throwing arts. and we're going to discuss some of the basic fundamentals to help you understand how to create your throws, how to manipulate body structure in an easier manner. First thing we want to start off with is the 4 basic folds of the body. Okay, so since I will face the camera here. All right. So 4 basic folds would be angle number 1 from here, angle number 2. Again, angle 1 is usually always in front of you. Angle number 3, we fold to this direction, and angle 4 to the other side. Okay? This is important to understand that when you create the ability to, for instance, if he grabs, okay, I'm working at angle 1 throw. Okay? From here, he doesn't like this, so what he's going to want to do is he's going to want to straighten up. Well, from here, I do an angle 2 fold. Causes him to throw. All right? If I throw the punch, okay, and I catch here, basically what I'm doing is I'm working an angle 4 throw and an angle 3 throw, depending on which side I happen to. Okay? So that's important to do. That's something you need to practice with your partner. Man grabs, okay, I want to manipulate his body to create different of major folds. All right? Next thing you want to think about is your creasing. All right? And creasing is done wherever you have exactly a crease. All right? So, but these creases also affect other creases on the body. So if I'm affecting the wrist crease, I'm affecting the knees, and I'm also affecting this man, if I look at it from this angle, okay, I'm affecting this man, and I'm folding him to angle 4. All right? So I'm using a major fold, and I'm using some minor creases. Okay? The elbow, man grabs, okay, and I cut into an elbow, I create creasing on his body. Right? If a man goes to throw a punch, okay, and I do it here, I'm using the waist crease. Okay? If he grabs, okay, and say he punches, I'm rolling here, I affect the elbow crease, I can affect the knee crease. Right? So understanding where these creases are and experimenting with how you can apply them. Okay? The crease of the neck. Man throws a punch, and I slip inside, and I affect that crease by punching to the center pole of the octagon. I create an angle 2 fold on this man, so I take him down into a throw. So what you want to do is you want to experiment with those individual creases and see what the effects are on the body. Then what you want to do is you want to take those creases and you want to apply them in a self-defense situation by using more than one. So let's say he grabs and he punches, okay, and I cut here. I'm going to want to crease the elbow, all right? Then I'm going to crease the knee, taking the structure away. And then from here, I want to crease the spine. You can call this 1, 2, 3 throw if you like. Okay, so you're going after creases. He grabs again, okay? I may crease here. I may crease here. And then from here, I crease the spine, and I rotate to a throw. Right? So you want to look at these creases and experiment with them. Experiment with them from all different situations. He punches, okay, I'm rotating here. He goes to rotate, I hit the waist crease. Then I arch the head, so I work that crease. From here, I may want to bang the knee, and I'm creasing that. So you can use this from all different applications. All right. Let's say a man goes to put a joint lock on. Okay. From here, I automatically crease the knee. It automatically creases the elbows and brings him to a point of where he can create a throw. Then throws a punch. I slip inside, crease here, crease the knee. Okay. To cause imbalance in his body. As this man is throwing punches, I'm going to move around his body, and what I'm doing is I'm affecting his lower base by attacking the knee creases. Okay? He throws a punch, I can be on the inside, I can be on the outside. He goes to throw the next strike, I may be here. From here, I walk through this knee, and that removes the stability of his balance. Now, okay, the next thing we're going to discuss in the throwing chapter is creating a void. Okay? When you do a throw, you want to manipulate the person's balance and structure to a point of where you've broken their kazushi or balance. Okay? Then from there, what you need to do is you need to take them and create a void for the person to fall into. This goes hand in hand with triangulation of this man's posture. We talk about triangulation. We discussed this before. If Sensei's facing the camera here, all right? Right now, his two easiest places to off-balance this guy would be forward and backward. Okay. Another way you can visualize this is if you were sitting on a stool that had 3 legs on it, and your weight is evenly distributed between the 3 points. If somebody were to quickly cut off one of those legs while you were sitting on it, you would fall to that angle. Okay. So the triangulation of your opponent and creating the void goes hand in hand. So an example of creating the void, he throws a punch, okay, and I slip inside and I'm here. Notice what I'm trying to do is I can get his head out beyond his feet so he can't move that foot anymore, all right? So I'm basically getting him to fall. Now I remove my leg, and removing my leg, which acts as his support, is removing that one leg off of that stool. So the punches slip inside. This could be a hit here. This could be a forearm strike, arching the head. Okay, right now, right there, my foot is what's keeping him up. So what I want to do is remove that. He falls into the void. This is also very useful for if you want to do a finishing technique from a throw. So he's punching. I'm here. I'm rotating. Okay, I break the kazushi. I remove the foot. I know he's going to fall right there. Hence my finishing strike. Okay. We can take this from all different. Let's say he grabs, okay, and I create the fold, I create the arch, and now I want to take him towards his back triangulation point and create a void and fall into. If the man throws a punch, okay, and I escape to the outside, he rotates. As he's rotating, I'm hitting and receiving his arm, okay, keeping the motion to the point of where I'm breaking his balance. Now, right now, I remove the foot, I turn, there's my throw. So those are a couple examples of creating the void and triangulation. All right. Next thing we want to talk about is the use of the arm. Okay, and the arm is basically a lever to affect the spine. So if he extends his arm, okay, as if to punch, and I rotate this, and I move this, okay, this has an effect on the spine. So when we're performing our blocking maneuvers, he's throwing a punch, okay, and I'm cutting to certain areas of the body, cutting the arm affects his spine. That's what I want to do. I'm going to create imbalance. There's a punch, I do a high block, and I bring this back this direction. Okay, what's happening is I'm using the arm to affect the spine to create imbalance so I can further go in and attack. He grabs, okay? I'm using the arm. I'm manipulating the elbow and the hand to create imbalance. Hence, then I create the imbalance, take the person into a throw. Okay? He grabs 2 hands. Okay? I'm manipulating. Through the use of a lock, I'm taking the arm and manipulating from here again back to this one. Create the throw. Okay? So be aware of where you manipulate the person's arms. If he throws a punch, okay, and I want to manipulate out, and I want him outward because I want a big rotation here. Okay, so I check the arm out as he goes to rotate. Now it's got such a rotation here, it allows me to manipulate his body. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to give you just a couple drills that you can take and perform slowly and use them. And these drills will help you understand throwing a little bit more and understand some of the concepts. As you're doing these drills, be aware of the concepts in the book that we've talked about and how they apply to those things. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is something called a molding drill. Basically what you're doing is you're accepting the opponent's attack and you're escaping, but you're using minimal motion, you're staying close to the attacker's body. So since he's throwing a punch and I slip to the outside, I'm molding to his body. Okay? I'm not doing anything, just a very, very light touch. So I have a contact point back here, back at the scapula, and I have a contact point here underneath the bicep. Right? As the man goes to rotate, I escape and I move and I contact certain areas. He goes to rotate. This time I may come to the inside of the body. Contact and rotate. From here, he retracts the punch, he goes to throw. I contact different points of the body. So I'm contacting here on the upper arm, and I'm contacting down here on the knee. He goes to rotate. I move in. I'm contacting a different part of the body. This time I'm contacting the head with my elbow, and I have this on his shoulder. From here, he goes to throw the next punch, okay? I move, and I contact. He punches, I move, and I contact, okay? I'm basically getting out of the way of the punch, okay? And I'm moving. This time I have my arm underneath his arm, behind his shoulder. Okay, from here, if he goes to punch, I know that as he rotates, I check his shoulder, I manipulate his balance. Okay, I could be over the arm, I could be under the arm, I could be touching, if he rotates, I could be down here touching the lower part of the back. As he goes to rotate, I check the lower part of the back, and he shoots him in, possibly for something to affect him in the throw. Okay, the idea behind doing this is it allows you, kind of punching, okay, and I may be here, okay, it allows me the ability to check his body and manipulate the balance as he goes to move. So as he goes to rotate, I check this, okay. From here, I may be to the inside. He goes to rotate, I speed up the retracting side here, okay. From here, this is also a lever affects the spine. As he goes to rotate, if I spin this up this direction, that has an effect on his body. But before you can do those things, you really need to get over your fear of the punch, get out of the way, and start contacting different parts of the body. So basically what you're doing as the man punches, you're just escaping, avoiding the attack, and kind of molding to the outside of his body. Pay attention to where you touch and how manipulation of that touch area will affect his next motion. Okay. Next thing we want to get to is we call it fold arch throw drill. This is probably one of the best tools that I've come up with to teach throwing to students. Right? And I usually start it out in a grabbing manner because it's easier and less it's less scary for the student to learn to throw off of grab attacks as compared to punches. But it works for both. So let's say Sensei goes and grabs me here. Okay, my objective is to follow the formula of fold arch throw. Okay, so I create a fold, and then I create an arch on the spine, and then I take him to his weak point, and there's my throw. Okay, let's say he grabs with the other hand. Okay, now this time I may cut inside. I create a fold, I create an arch, create a throw. Okay. He may grab, he may double choke. Okay, it's just. He may double choke, okay? So I may hit, check the arm, create a fold, use the hair, create an arch, create my throw. He grabs. I move, I may loosen up here. I create a fold, I create an arch, I create a throw. Okay? So folding, usually using the elbows, the limbs, so on and so forth, to create the folds in the body. Go after the head, taking the head out beyond the feet, to create the arch, and then roll the attacker into a throw. Now the same thing can be used from a punching attack. Okay? He goes and punches, I create a fold, I create an arch, I create a throw. Okay? He throws a punch, maybe I escape first, he comes out, I create a fold, arch, and then I throw. Okay? He goes to punch, I create a fold and an arch, and then I create my throw. So take these little drills and use them, start slow, and as you perform them, you'll start to see how everything that we talked about prior to this comes into play here. Last drill we're going to use is called the multiple crease throwing drill. We've already done application from this in these tapes. But let's say the man grabs. Okay, so maybe I want to cut to the elbow crease. Then I want to cut to the waist crease to bring him down, and then I want to step through the knee crease, creating a throw. He grabs. I may work here. This creates a crease. This creates a crease. And then as I contact with the elbow, I walk through the knee on this side. So I'm basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work as many creases as I possibly can to chop down the body and structure. Okay, he throws a punch. Okay, I'm escaping out. Comes back here, he goes to move, I'm going to check, he goes to rotate, come up, come here, go to the, basically chop the body down using 3 creases. Okay, this pretty much concludes the chapter on throwing, and now we'll move on to the next segment. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the striking chapter. When we talk about striking, and the obvious result of striking is to cause damage from the contact made by the strike. But I also want you guys to, the practitioner, as he goes through this, to start to think about using strikes to manipulate body structure. Okay, we want to cause damage with our strikes, obviously, to render the attacker helpless so that we can get away. But I also want to think about the fact that as you're doing strikes, and we'll cover this in this chapter, and we'll talk about this and show you different variations of it, it's really important that you think about directing your strikes to areas of the body which will break down the balance factor of the body, that will contribute to creasing, folding, off-balancing the spine, so that the opponent cannot absorb the attack. All right? When we talk about strikes, we want to think about what purpose they are for. And you have several different variations of how a strike can be used. I like to think of void filling. Strike, use a strike to fill a void as you're in motion from one place to the next, which will help offset your attacker. Manipulatory strikes. As I was just talking about, strikes should be directed toward areas of the body which are going to not only cause damage, but cause a physical off-balancing by taking away the structure of the opponent. You have your destructive strikes, which are basically for finishing. So prelude to a finishing strike would be maybe a strike or two that would cause imbalance in the structure, creating maybe an arch of the spine, so that your destructive strikes can strike and enter and not be absorbed. Okay. So when we come back, we're going to go through all the variations in the book that are in pictures, and do it on DVD form for you, so that you'll have a little easier time understanding what's going on. Now watch. Okay, the first sequence of photos, we talked about using your strikes for your escaping. All right, as we talked about before on the tapes, talk about that your escaping should be the highest art and should be the most important. So, for instance, if this man's coming in to throw a punch, and I'm set up here, and I punch to offset him, it allows me the ability to go and escape. If he throws the punch, I can cut this way, throw a strike. It causes an effect on the opponent because he sees the strike moving into the space which he has to occupy. All right. If this man is choking me, okay, I can use strikes to manipulate his body, which will also allow me to escape also. So when we do our strikes, we have to think about the fact that we need to get a purpose out of it. We're not just striking to be striking, but there's always a purpose behind it. Okay. When we talk about manipulatory strikes, we want to talk about how we strike the body in areas that will set up the body. Okay. For instance, if this man is throwing a punch at me, okay, and I move to the inside here, okay, and he goes to throw a punch, and I hit him here, it will bring this part of the body forward. All right. So when we do that again, he throws a punch. I set up here, he goes to move, I strike him here. This arches his spine back and allows me to deliver a strike down below. When we talk about, I believe in the throwing chapter, or the concepts, that when the head is pressed back, this comes up. And when this is pressed down, it brings the head in. So if we take that and switch that, and he throws a punch, and I move in here, and I punch here, it brings his head in. So now my strikes continue through on the opponent. And we'll show you that one more time. So he's punching, I'm slipping inside, and I hit here, which brings his head in. Now my hits are very close to use that striking. So as you work your strikes, what we talked about earlier is the fact that we want to destroy balance. Our whole concept of this whole book project and the DVDs is we want to maintain balance for ourselves and disrupt balance on the opponent. So when you use your strikes, think about manipulatory. Think about striking in a position where you know it's going to bring the head in. Just think about striking the head, arching the spine back to bring another position up. It will open doors for you as far as giving you different avenues to work your combinations. Okay, one of the things we want to go over with the reader is give you just a couple basic drills that you can do to develop the rhythm and the timing and the hand posture that we're going through on these combinations, which you're going to see in this chapter more. This is just a basic drill that you guys can practice with a partner, okay? So you're going to have your partner just put his hand out here in a punching position, and you're going to move to the inside, okay? And you're going to strike with the right palm. Okay, Wes, if you could possibly zoom in on this a little bit and catch us from about here up. Okay, so you would move to the inside, you would do a strike with the palm strike, left, then right back fist, then left palm, then punch, then elbow, then back fist, then palm. Okay, so you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, the way you do this combination is a little bit unlike how some people strike, where one hand goes out, one hand pulls back, another hand comes out, another hand goes back. They retract, but the power that you're getting on these strikes is more from the hip rotation than big retracting motion. The danger with the big retracting motion is that if this man throws a punch at me, okay, and I go here and I hit and I pull back, this man's going to fill that void, punch me, okay? But if he punches and I'm here and he's throwing his punches, it doesn't matter. My hands are right here. If I choose to stop that incoming punch, okay, right here, okay, he goes to rotate, I can hit him with the elbow here, or as the punch comes to the head, I've got the arm here to check and I go right back into my combinations. So what we're trying to show you is just a basic combination that you can work. And you should work it on the left side and the right side. And then what will happen is you'll start to see your triangles tighten up if you pay attention to that. So again, he just puts his arm out. So we move in, right, left, right, left, right, 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 left. And then if you want, you can end with a punch like there. Then have your opponent put the other hand out and perform the same drill, doing the same thing. Okay? This will help you, this will aid in your practice with some of the combinations that we're going to go over in this chapter. So, taking that drill now and showing you how to use that in the last sequence that we filmed. If this man throws a punch, okay, and I move into here, all right, and I want to attack his head, he goes to rotate, head down and in, which brings the head in. Okay, right from here, I'm going to follow with an elbow and a palm, and then a back fist, and then a palm, and then punch down and in to have him move backwards. He throws a punch, okay, I'm slipping inside here, I'm rotating, okay, I'm rotating into the hitting, okay. If he, anytime during that combination, he throws the second punch, that's fine, this will offset, this will offset, this will offset. So, manipulate the body, start working your hands so that your triangles are tight, and what you're doing is, as you move your body, you're hitting. Also be conscious of the fact that when you're punching in close, okay, if I have this man here in close, and I'm punching here, following right with the elbow and then the back fist, allows me to get actually 1, 2, 3 strikes off of one limb. Okay? And we'll be back. Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is void filling strikes. A void filling strike, we discussed before on these videos about the neutral zone in here. Okay, as this man's throwing a punch at me, okay, there's a neutral zone. I reposition, okay, he's got to move into this zone in order to throw the next punch. So if I want to throw a void filling strike, all right, to give me some time and to offset his structure, as he rotates, I might throw this up there and then move, which causes a temporary imbalance in his body. Okay, a void filling strike can also act as a manipulatory strike, right? Causing the person to either A, react to the strike, or hitting the person with the strike, causing an imbalance in the spine, and then follow up with another strike to be your finishing strike, which would be otokano, attenuata. All right. So let's switch sides here. So let's say in an effort to use a void filling strike to set up an otokano strike, he would throw a punch, and I might move to the outside here and press. Okay. As this man goes to rotate, this hand is closest comes up to arch. Notice the arch on his spine. From here, I would follow through with my otokano waza. Okay. Once I create that arch on the spine, there's no way that the person can hunker down or try to withstand the blow. He's not in a position to be able to do that. When the spine is arched, it's very hard to tighten up your muscles and absorb the blow. So one more time, he throws a punch, under here, he goes to rotate, I can palm up, causing this to happen. Bang, I hit then, I take the guy down, throw. A void filling strike can be used pretty much anywhere. He throws a punch, I slip to the inside. He throws the next punch, I hit here before I move. Notice what happens to this man's head when he sees that punch come. So he throws the first punch, the next punch comes. His head moves back, his shoulders move back. It actually helps tighten the circle and helps make the punch miss me. And one of the most important things is his mental balance is effective at that point in time. Okay? So if I were to do that, okay, and I move to here, he throws the next punch, and I throw here, now I can move in and I can continue my attack. Okay, now what? Okay, we're going to give you another example of using a void filling or manipulatory strike. The man throws a punch, okay, and I slip inside. His body has to rotate to hit, okay, and this hand is positioned here for a reason. As he goes to rotate, I'm going to shift my weight, okay, I'm shifting my weight from my left foot to my right foot, okay, which catches him and brings him in this manner. So I slip, he goes to move, I shift, his hit knocks him out. From here, you would roll in and you would deliver your desired tapping technique. One more time. So here, he goes to move, this hit offsets. Here's your palm, your punch, your elbow, your back fist, your palm, rising into here. If I choose to roll up, and now throw. One more time. Bang, punch, boom, that hit. Okay. Right now we're just kind of pushing with this, but realistically this would be a palm strike to the inside. Okay, not much. Okay, something important we've discussed many times in other areas of this book DVD set is proper triangulation. You've seen in a couple different places where we talk about our triangulation and our opponent's triangulation. Okay, so what we're talking about right now is really our triangulation. If we choose to attack, and since we're covering striking right now, that would mean that we're engaging. All right. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that our triangulation is good. So attacker's throwing a punch, and I move. If I want to engage to hit this man, I need to be triangulated towards it. He throws the next punch. I move. My triangles are right here, so that every time he punches, I can hit. As he goes to rotate, I'm like checking motion. Notice I'm still engaged with this man. He throws the next punch, I slip out this direction. I'm engaging this man. He throws the next punch, and then hit in between. My triangulation is right there. He throws the next punch, check it here. Note every time. I don't want to do this unless I choose to escape. I want to align. So his next motion will be a rising motion. As he rises up, he runs into the strikes. Another thing that you want to think of is setting the hands up for your strikes, okay? If the attacker throws a punch and I'm here, obviously my hands they're here, they're ready to hit, okay? I don't really want to have them here because he can see this and he can react to it. I want to have them down here in a more non-threatening manner, okay? If he punches, I may choose to extend my hand out, okay? Now this is really, for right now, as soon as he goes to look at me, this is beyond his visual plane. So what happens is he doesn't actually see this. As we all know, most of the time the strike that causes the most damage or knocks a person out is the one that they don't see coming. All right? So they don't have time to try to absorb the strike. As this man goes to rotate, this hit comes first, then this hit. Okay? And basically it's a 1-2 type motion which causes that the footwork there trying to recapture his base. So what I'm doing is I'm extending the arm out. Okay, which gives him the impression that this arm is dead. In actuality, this is going to be the first hit. As he rotates, it's 1-2 hit, okay? And then you can follow him with all of your different strikes that you want to apply, okay? If I'm working from the inside, I happen to be here, okay? This hand is right here. He goes to move, I attack the pressure point underneath the jaw. From here, I can finish with a punch. I come with an elbow. Downward strikes to finish, okay? This would be a strike a lot of people see when they're practice when they're doing board breaking. All right. What I'm doing is exposing his neck and taking his head as he punches. And here, if he rotates, this takes his head and brings it out beyond his feet, and it puts it on a plane where I can attack with this kind of weapon. That would be a very dangerous strike to do to somebody. With your striking, you want to think about the ability to place your hands in positions so that you're set up for the strike. Okay? In Kosoru, what we try to do is all the time we try to be preparatory in nature. All right? Not reactionary. If the man punches, and I work to this side here, okay? what he doesn't see is my hand down here. As he goes to rotate, this punch happens down below, and then I follow up with my hand techniques to the upper body. So as you're working your drills, okay, have a man punch. Place your hand in a certain area. He goes to move, just work the hip, and then follow with the next strike. He goes to move, maybe a punch down and into here. He rotates. This time this is going to point to the back of the head. Okay? So take your hand postures from your blocking mode and try to place them in areas where they're going to be beneficial and advantageous to you on the attacker's next motion. Now on to the next one. Okay, now when we talk about hand placement for striking, I want to show you a couple different variations that we do in the book. If he throws a punch and I'm to the outside here, okay, understand that, and we've talked about this before, understand that the body in his position, he has to retract and project to throw the next punch. So knowing this, you can take your strikes and you can deliver them towards the projecting side. All right, so if I'm here and I have my hand positioned in this manner, I know that as he rotates to hit me, okay, that is going to happen if I choose to. Okay, so how would we do that? He would throw a punch, I would extend, he would rotate, then I would hit. This would freeze his structure, and then you would follow up with your hand techniques. So I'm positioning, I know that this shoulder has to come right to here in order to hit me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch to that spot. Back, catches him in a 1, 2, 3, 4 position, being square, and then I follow with my atemi and maybe my finish. Okay? Knowing this, shoulder, hip, knee, all the same thing. He throws a punch, and I'm out here. I know that that knee, watch as he rotates, how that knee, go ahead and slow sensei, has to rotate and come towards me. Okay? Well, knowing this is how you place your kicks. Okay? Here, he rotates slow. I kick, then I follow up with my attack. Okay? The hip, also another good position to hit. Okay? I rotate, my hand is down here now. As he goes to rotate, I allow him to rotate, punch right into the hip, comes right up, works into the rest of the strike. Now on to the next section. Okay, the next thing we're going to touch on, we're just going to touch on it briefly, is kata chapter. There are a lot of martial artists out there that believe that kata is useless in training as far as for fighting for self-defense. And everybody's viewpoint is valid. Being a practitioner of the arts for about 28 years and have done a lot of kata, kata can be a training tool just like anything else. For instance, when a new person comes into the dojo, just like anything else, we have to teach them big motion. Right? Big motion is easier to see, it's easier to correct, it's easier for the student to apply. Big motion then should, as the practitioner gets more advanced, should start to tighten up and shorten and so on, and become more concise. So when we talk about kata, kata is merely a formula. And as I said in the book here, if you want to take and perform a task that has several different steps to it, what you want to do first is you want to map out a formula and take those steps, apply them in a certain order, and so that they're done the same every time. And what you're doing basically is you're creating a kata. So when we talk about use of kata, there's a lot of things that kata can teach. One of the first things when you're talking about the use of kata is kata should be looked at in two different aspects. One should be strength training, and one should be application training. Okay. So when a student comes into the school and you're teaching them a Zenkutsu dachi, you want to start with a nice, wide, strong, long base. Okay. This builds the lower body muscles. This builds the leg muscles. Okay. It makes them strong. Okay. So strength training, very important, because you have to build the body as well as build your arsenal as far as self-defense. Then you have application training. If you want to take and start applying the kata for self-defense, a lot of times what you have to do is, so you can move slightly quicker, is to shorten up the stance. This would be a Zenkutsu dachi, but it would be more application training, easier to move. Another thing that you can use kata for is kata, in Kosharu, the practitioner is taught to study movement and motion. Okay? We need to study the movement of of our body and our opponent's body. We need to learn how to inhibit their motion, keep them in an off-balance state, all the while maintaining a balanced state. So if you look at kata, and a lot of times what it will require the practitioner to do would be to slow down. If you take a long, wide base, and you want to move from point A to point B in a good long Senkutsudachi, you're going to see that certain muscles have to tense, certain muscles have to go into contraction, other muscles have to release in order to project your body in a smooth fashion. Right? If you take that and move it to a smaller stance and apply the same principles or same basic movement as far as contraction and releasing muscles, you'll find out that it's much easier to move. For instance, in a Zenkutsudachi, if we're here okay, one of the things you want to think about when you're looking into your kata for your bunkai or your application is that your teacher is going to give you a basic explanation, okay? And we'll do some of that here. But basic explanation is like the elementary level of explaining a kata. Obviously, for a beginner student, for them to step to a down block, step in, punch. Okay, so obviously this one, the basic elementary level, it would be blocking a kick, stepping in, and throwing a punch. Okay, basic elementary explanation is important for basic elementary students. Okay, the thing you want to think about is that as your skill level begins to grow and your understanding of things begins to grow, that explanation should change too. Okay, that is applicable. But one of the things that the key to this is thinking about changing your target, where you're targeting your block or your strike to. All right. If we look at kata and we think that blocks are only blocks as defensive motion and strikes are only strikes as offensive motion, you're missing half of the picture. Okay. Blocks should be done as strikes. Okay. Anytime you block somebody, you should cause some damage to them. You should manipulate balance, and those blocks should be basically strikes. Okay. That in itself can change the way we look at kata. But let's look at target areas. Okay, so let's say a movement of kata, I step in and a back stance and I throw a chop. So the basic explanation is he steps in and throws a punch, I step and I chop. Okay, that's fine for elementary explanation. All right, but realize that the explanation for that can be applicable, but there can be a different twist to it. Okay, so for instance, he throws a punch. This time I chop into the bicep, as compared to hitting up here. So when I hit this man, okay, causing pain, I'm causing imbalance in his body. Okay. Now take that and make sure that you change the timing of it. So that was basically a defensive manner where he steps in and throws a punch. I step back, or I might move forward a little bit, but I'm still blocking the arm. I'm really not causing any damage. If I think about striking into the arm, I will cause damage. Now take the timing and change it just a little bit one more time. Okay, I'm totally peripheral. He goes to attack. It's faster. Now my shuto goes to a different place on the body. So the same basic motion, and it might be a basic movement of kata, doesn't necessarily mean that the basic application is all that it can be used for. All right? Why block somebody's motion when you can strike them and capture their balance? So he goes to move, I'm moving in, I'm striking actually twice, okay? Slow motion. He's moving in, I'm moving forward. This is striking, this could be up into the eyes, it could be into the throat, and then this motion would be the finishing strike. So don't look at just your projected motion at the end, look at some of the other motion that's happening inside that move also, okay? Now watch. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take some basic moves out of some kata that are done, that are widely practiced by a lot of different styles and systems, and hopefully we can show you some things that you can apply in your own study. One of the things I say in this book is you don't necessarily need to study Kosoru Kempo in order to get benefit from these concepts and principles and some of the things that we're working. Concepts and principles are universal. They can apply to any art form. They apply to movement and motion as far as in the human factor with 2 arms and 2 legs. So we're going to do a couple moves, try to give you a couple variations of some of the things that you're already doing. So let's start over here. First of all, we're going to start with a move out of Pinan Shodan. or it might be pin on, knee down, depending on the system, however they have them arranged. And the motion is, the starting motion is here, and then we step out and we do a down block. And the next motion is to step in and punch. Well, that's basically, I see my attacker coming from the left, I turn, I block his kick, and then he's moving back, I step in and I punch him. Okay? Again, elementary explanation, not bad, but your understanding of this should grow as you go on. All right? So let's take, first of all, let's take this from a grabbing. Let's think of, instead of the opponent being here, let's think of the opponent being here. All right? So let's say this man comes up and grabs, does a lapel grab here. Okay? This motion, this is the starting motion that you're going to do in preparation for your kata. So you start here, boom, the hands come up, then you go to move. Well, let's say this man grabs me. Okay? Can I not take this and strike down into the crease of the elbow? Grab the hair on the opposite quadrant of the head, and then turn and perform my down block. Now, that's the first move. As I go to step in, this could be another opponent, and this could be a stomp as I'm coming through here. I could be stepping on the throat. All right? Take another variation of that. Let's say the man doesn't have any hair, okay, and he grabs. Okay, I do my crease. I punch across here, extend my arm. I do my turn. There's my down block. All right. So you have two variations of that. This could also be he grabs, he punches, okay? Here, 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 and then down into the throat. So now you have 2 or 3 different attacks from the front there that you can use off of. And if most kata, a lot of katas, start off like with this motion, okay? So in the beginning, yeah, it's okay to do that because that gives the practitioner a visualization. But now you want to try to expand on some of that. On to the next. Okay, another application, one from pin on knee down. The move is basically from here. I have an attacker who's throwing a punch, and I step out and I do this motion, I do this block, and I do a hit and I do a hit. Okay, that has merit to it. Okay, easy for the elementary student to see that. Okay. Another explanation for that would be if my attacker is in front of me and he grabs and he goes to punch, okay? This is this motion right here, okay? From here, this could strike on the way back because this is striking out. This creases and folds and arches the spine, so this last strike, take this opponent out, okay? Another application for that can be if he grabs, I block. Okay, I cut into here, which brings his face in. I keep the elbow, I strike outward. Okay, that being the finishing move to that. Okay. Also in pin on 2, we come up the middle, with pressuring, hitting, pressuring, and hitting. Okay. Have to look at what both hands are doing. Okay. If he's moving to attack, this pressuring motion can be this. This being my chop. The other thing can be, he's moving into strike, I'm moving into thrust. Pressure points into the neck, and then I fire my chop. At the end of the kata, where the student comes from here, and then 1, 2. Okay, that motion is usually explained as 2 people. He's throwing a punch here, I'm chopping him, I'm stepping in, I'm chopping him. Only problem with that is I've chopped this guy's arm and I'm still in his range. He's going to either hit me, grab me, whatever. Okay. A better explanation for that move would be he throws a punch. Okay, I'm here. He goes to throw the next punch. This comes across here, and now this chop comes through this angle. Okay. So your move would be 1 and 2. That is far more applicable than 2 people blocking both of their motion and not actually attacking them. So again, he throws a punch. Okay, I'm striking here. He goes to move, the hand comes across, okay? Then stepping in and chopping, which would finish an opponent, okay? Now, if you look through the pin on kata, you'll see there's middle blocks, you'll see high blocks, and you'll see down blocks, okay? For instance, in other kata also, you have all those basic fundamentals. For instance, if this man is stepping into punch here, and I slip back into a cat stance, okay? This would be a middle block performed, okay? Problem with it is, though, that it doesn't really do anything to him other than stop the initial attack, all right? But if you take that, and now he's going to throw the same punch, okay, and I move and I perform my middle block, okay, it gives me a different application. It gives me a fighting application. If he punches, okay, and back here, my middle block is something, notice that time that my middle block, actually what it did to him was wound him down, and it compressed his body. And then that can follow to the head also. Another application for a middle block would be from a grab situation. Notice that you have to think more than one dimension. You can't think, when you're bunkai and kata, you can't think that the attack is always a punch. It's not always a punch. Let's say this man reaches across and grabs my wrist, okay? From here, I shoot back into a cat stance or a back stance, and I perform this middle block, ripping this way as I yank this way. What it does is wrenches the attacker's elbow, possibly breaks the elbow. Pin-on showdown. We come here and we come up and we do high blocks. Okay? And most application for that is this. He steps in and punches with the I'm parrying and I'm blocking. Okay? And then I would be parrying and blocking, parrying and blocking. Okay? Good to practice for timing and so on and so forth, but when you start to graduate to another level, you have to see something else. So from this position, let's say he punches with his left hand, okay? He throws a punch, okay? His first motion is here, blocking motion is here, okay? And we're doing that in a slow manner. If he punches with the right hand, okay? I would shift, bang, this would be here, bang, this would be my strike with my high block, okay? Another way a high block can be used is if he grabs the wrist and I bring him in and I use this motion as a high block, I can break the attacker's elbow. Okay. Now we're going to finish with a set for application out of the Naihanchi kata. Okay. The last application that we're going to do is some application out of the Naihanchi kata. Naihanchi kata is a more close quarter fighting type thing. It's often talked about that your back is up against the wall. That's a possibility, but you also have to kind of break out of that mold. Let's say we're going to cover this move here, 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 and here. Okay. So let's say the attacker throws a punch. Okay. So what you're doing is making a parrying motion here, which causes an over rotation of his body. Okay. As he goes to rotate, depending on his height, I can catch here, right, which would be my elbow smash. Okay. From here, there's a compression. The hands come to chamber. This down block will be striking here, and the punch coming across in this manner here. Let's do this from another end. Let's see more of this one. Okay. So he's throwing a punch. Okay. I'm extending this out. I'm working this. Okay. Now let's say right now his head's a little bit far away from me. He goes to rotate. I can check this. Okay. Then from here I down block, and then from here I punch across. Okay, so your movement in your kata is here, catch, down block, punch across. Okay, a lot of different applications just in that sequence alone. Let's say he punches with his left hand, okay, and I cut to here. Okay, this man would be trying to rotate. As he rotates, this brings him right into this elbow. Then the compression, then the down block, then the punch across. This is a little bit different in application compared to what most of the time this kata is explaining. Most of the time, it's the attacker is more 45, and I'm blocking, grabbing, pull in, hit, I'm catching, I'm waiting. Now there's an attacker over here, okay, and from this posture, he's going to front thrust kick. So I'm doing a down block, and then I'm punching across. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Naihanchi kata has a lot of different variations. What you need to do is look closely, slow down on your kata, and observe the movement and motion. Now watch. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the DVDs. They're meant specifically to be a supplement towards the book, to help close the gap between the still pictures and the words. If you're interested in more DVDs that are more in-depth on these subjects, please feel free to contact me. The information will be on the end of the videotape. Thank you for purchasing the book, and hope this serves you well. Thank you.